Government in heaven. As heaven is divided into societies, and the larger societies consist of some hundreds of thousands of angels, and all within a society, although in like good, are not in like wisdom, it must needs follow that governments exist there, since order must be observed, and all things of order must be guarded. But the governments in the heavens differ, they are of one sort in societies that constitute the Lord's celestial kingdom, and of another sort in the societies that constitute his spiritual kingdom. They differ also in accordance with the functions of the several societies. Nevertheless, no other government than the government of mutual love is possible in the heavens, and the government of mutual love is heavenly government. Government in the Lord's celestial kingdom is called righteousness, because all in that kingdom are in the good of love to the Lord, from the Lord, and whatever is from that good, is called righteous. Government there belongs to the Lord alone. He leads them and teaches them in the affairs of life. The truths that are called truths of judgment are written on their hearts, everyone knows them, perceives them, and sees them, and in consequence, matters of judgment there never come into question, but only matters of righteousness, which belong to the life. About these matters the less wise consult the more wise, and these consult the Lord and receive answers. Their heaven, that is, their inmost joy, is to live rightly from the Lord. In the Lord's spiritual kingdom, the government is called judgment, because those in that kingdom are in spiritual good, which is the good of charity towards the neighbor, and that good in its essence is truth, and truth pertains to judgment, as good pertains to righteousness. These two are led by the Lord, but mediately, and in consequence they have governors, few or many according to the need of the society in which they are. They also have laws according to which they live together. The governors administer all things in accordance with the laws, which they understand because they are wise, and in doubtful matters they are enlightened by the Lord. As government from good, which is the kind of government that exists in the Lord's celestial kingdom, is called righteousness, and government from truth, which is the kind of government that exists in the Lord's spiritual kingdom, is called judgment, so the terms righteousness and judgment are used in the word when heaven and the church are treated of. Righteousness, signifying celestial good, and judgment, spiritual good, which good, as has been said above, is in its essence truth. As in the following passages, of peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it in judgment and in righteousness from henceforth and even to eternity. By David, here the Lord is meant, and by his kingdom, heaven, as is evident from the following passage, I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and he shall reign as king, and shall deal intelligently and shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land. Jehovah is exalted, for he dwelleth on high, he hath filled Zion with judgment and righteousness. Zion also means heaven and the church. I, Jehovah, doing judgment and righteousness on the earth, for in these things I delight. I will betroth thee unto me forever, and I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness and judgment. O Jehovah, in the heavens thy righteousness is like the mountains of God, and thy judgments are like the great deep. They ask of me the judgments of righteousness, they long for an approach unto God. So in other places. In the Lord's spiritual kingdom, there are various forms of government, differing in different societies, the variety being in accord with the functions performed by the societies, and the functions of these are in accord with the functions of all things in man, to which they correspond. That these are various is well known, the heart having one function, the lungs another, the liver another, the pancreas and spleen another, and each sensory organ another. As in the body these organs perform various services, so there are various services pertaining to the societies in the greatest man, which is heaven, for the societies there correspond to these organs. That there is a correspondence of all things of heaven with all things of man may be seen in its own chapter above. But all these forms of government agree in this, that they look to the public good as their end, and in that good to the good of the individual. And this is so because everyone in the whole heaven is under the auspices of the Lord, who loves all, and from divine love ordains that there shall be a common good, from which each individual shall receive his own good. Each one, moreover, receives good according as he loves the common good, for so far as he loves the common good, he loves all and everyone, and as that love is love of the Lord, he is to that extent loved by the Lord, and good comes to him. From all this it can be seen what the governors there are, namely, that they are such as are preeminent in love and wisdom, and therefore desire the good of all, and from wisdom know how to provide for the realization of that good. Such governors do not domineer or dictate, but they minister and serve, to serve meaning to do good to others from a love of the good, and to minister meaning to see to it that the good is done. Nor do they make themselves greater than others, but less, for they put the good of society, and of the neighbor, in the first place, and put their own good last, and whatever is in the first place is greater, and what is last is less. Nevertheless, the rulers have honor and glory, they dwell in the midst of the society, in higher position than the rest, and also in magnificent palaces, and this glory and honor they accept, not for the sake of themselves, but for the sake of obedience, for all they know that they have this honor and glory from the Lord, and on that account should be obeyed. This is what is meant by the Lord's words to his disciples, "Whosoever would become great among you, let him be your minister, and whosoever would be first among you, let him be your servant, as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister. He that is greatest among you, let him be as the least, and he that is chief, as he that doth minister. Also in each house there is a like government in a lesser form. In every house there is a master and there are servants, the master loves the servants, and the servants love the master, consequently, they serve each other from love. The master teaches how they ought to live, and tells what is to be done, the servants obey and perform their duties. To perform use is the delight of everyone's life. This shows that the Lord's kingdom is a kingdom of uses. Also in the hells there are governments, for without governments they could not be kept in restraint, but the governments there are opposite to the governments in the heavens, they are governments of the love of self. Everyone there wishes to dictate to others and to be over others. They hate those that do not favor them, and make them objects of their vengeance and fury, for such is the nature of the love of self. Therefore the more malignant are set over them as governors, and these they obey from fear. But of this below, where the hells are treated of. Divine workshop in heaven. Divine worship in the heavens is not unlike in externals divine worship on the earth, but in internals it is different. In the heavens, as on the earth, there are doctrines, preachings, and church edifices. In essentials, the doctrines there are everywhere the same, but in the higher heavens, they contain more interior wisdom than in the lower. The preachings are in harmony with the doctrines, and as they have houses and palaces, so they have also church edifices, in which there is preaching. Such things exist in heaven, because the angels are being perfected continually in wisdom and love. For they possess, as men do, understanding and will, and both their understanding, and their will, are capable of being continually perfected, the understanding, by means of truths of intelligence, and the will, by means of the goods of love. But essential divine worship in the heavens does not consist in going to church and hearing preaching, but in a life of love, charity, and faith, in accordance with doctrine. Preachings in churches serve solely as means of instruction in matters of life. I have talked with angels on this subject, and have told them that it is believed in the world, that divine worship consists solely in attending church, listening to the preaching, observing the sacrament of the supper 3 or 4 times a year, and performing other acts of worship according to the requirements of the church, also devoting special times to prayers, and at such times, behaving devoutly. The angels said that these are outward acts that ought to be done, but are of no avail unless there is an internal, from which they proceed, which is a life in accordance with the precepts that doctrine teaches. That I might learn about their meeting in places of worship, I have been permitted at times to attend and to hear the preaching. The preacher stands in a pulpit at the east. Those who are in the light of wisdom more than others, sit in front of him, those who are in less light, sit to the right and left of these. There is a circular arrangement of the seats, so that all are in the preacher's view, no one so sitting at either side as to be out of his view. At the entrance, which is at the east of the building and on the left of the pulpit, those stand who are being initiated. No one is permitted to stand behind the pulpit. When there is anyone there, the preacher becomes confused. It is the same if anyone in the congregation dissents, and, for this reason, the dissenter must needs turn away his face. The wisdom of the preachings is such as to be above all comparison with the preachings of this world, for those in the heavens are in interior light. The church edifices in the spiritual kingdom are apparently built of stone, and those in the celestial kingdom of wood, because stone corresponds to truth, and those who are in the spiritual kingdom are in truth, while wood corresponds to good, and those in the celestial kingdom are in good. In that kingdom, the sacred edifices are not called churches, but houses of God. In that kingdom they are without magnificence, but in the spiritual kingdom they are more or less magnificent. I have also talked with one of the preachers about the holy state in which those are who listen to the preaching in the churches. He said that everyone is pious, devout, and holy in harmony with his interiors, which pertain to love and faith, for holiness itself is in love and faith, because the divine of the Lord is in them. He also said that he did not know what outward holiness is, apart from love and faith, and when he thought about it, he said that perhaps it is something counterfeiting holiness in outward appearance, either conventional or hypocritical, and that such holiness is kindled and sustained by spurious fire, from the love of self and the world. All the preachers are from the Lord's spiritual kingdom, none are from the celestial kingdom. They are from the spiritual kingdom because the angels there are in truths from good, and all preaching must be from truths. There are no preachers from the celestial kingdom because those who are there are in the good of love, and they see and perceive truths from good, but do not talk about them. But although the angels in the celestial kingdom perceive and see truths, there are preachings there, since by means of preachings they are enlightened in the truths that they already know, and are perfected by many truths that they did not know before. As soon as they hear truths, they acknowledge them, and thus perceive them, and the truths they perceive they love, and by living in accordance with them, they make them to be of their life, declaring that living in accordance with truths is loving the Lord. All preachers are appointed by the Lord, and have therefrom a gift for preaching. No others are permitted to preach in the churches. They are not called priests, but preachers. They are not called priests because the celestial kingdom is the priesthood of heaven, for priesthood signifies the good of love to the Lord, and those in the celestial kingdom are in that good, while the spiritual kingdom is the kingship of heaven, for kingship signifies truth from good, and those in the spiritual kingdom are in that truth. The doctrines with which their preachings are in accord. All look to life as their end, and none look to faith separate from the life. The doctrine of the inmost heaven is more full of wisdom than the doctrine of the middle heaven, and this more full of intelligence than the doctrine of the outmost heaven, for in each heaven the doctrines are adapted to the perceptions of the angels. The essential of all doctrines is acknowledging the divine human of the Lord. The power of the angels in heaven. That the angels possess power cannot be comprehended by those who know nothing about the spiritual world and its influx into the natural world. Such think that angels can have no power, because they are spiritual and are even so pure and unsubstantial that no eye can see them. But those who look more interiorly into the causes of things take a different view. Such know that all the power that a man has is from his understanding and will, for apart from these he is powerless to move a particle of his body, and his understanding and will are his spiritual man. This moves the body and its members at its pleasure, for whatever it thinks the mouth and tongue speak, and whatever it wills the body does, and it bestows its strength at pleasure. As man's will and understanding are ruled by the Lord through angels and spirits, so also are all things of his body, because these are from the will and understanding, and if you will believe it, without influx from heaven, man cannot even move a step. That this is so, has been shown me by much experience. Angels have been permitted to move my steps, my actions, and my tongue and speech, as they pleased, and this by influx into my will and thought, and I have learned thereby that, of myself, I could do nothing. I was afterwards told by them, that every man is so ruled, and that he can know this from the doctrine of the church, and from the word, for he prays that God may send his angels to lead him, direct his steps, teach him, and inspire in him what to think and what to say, and other like things, although he says and believes otherwise, when he is thinking by himself apart from doctrine. All this has been said to make known what power angels have with man. But so great is the power of angels in the spiritual world, that if I should make known all that I have witnessed in regard to it, it would exceed belief. Any obstruction there that ought to be removed, because it is contrary to divine order, the angels cast down or overthrow merely by an effort of the will and a look. Thus I have seen mountains that were occupied by the evil, cast down and overthrown, and sometimes shaken from end to end as in earthquakes, also rocks cleft asunder to their bottoms, and the evil who were upon them swallowed up. I have seen also hundreds of thousands of evil spirits dispersed by angels and cast down into hell. Numbers are of no avail against them, neither are devices, cunning, or combinations, for they see through them all, and disperse them in a moment. But more may be seen on this subject, in the account of the destruction of Babylon. Such power do angels have in the spiritual world. It is evident from the word, that they have like power in the natural world also, when it is permitted, for instance, that they have given to destruction entire armies, and that they brought on a pestilence, from which 70,000 men died. Of this angel it is said, the angel stretched out his hand against Jerusalem to destroy it, but Jehovah repented him of the evil, and said to the angel that destroyed the people, It is enough, now stay thy hand. And David saw the angel that smote the people. Besides other passages. Because the angels have such power, they are called powers, as in David, Bless Jehovah, ye angels, mighty in power. But it must be understood, that the angels have no power whatever from themselves, but that all their power is from the Lord, and that they are powers, only so far as they acknowledge this. Whoever of them believes that he has power from himself, instantly becomes so weak as not to be able to resist even a single evil spirit. For this reason, angels ascribe no merit whatever to themselves, and are averse to all praise and glory on account of anything they do, ascribing all the praise and glory to the Lord. It is the divine truth that goes forth from the Lord that has all power in the heavens, for the Lord in heaven is divine truth united to divine good. To the extent that angels are receptions of this truth, they are powers. Moreover, each one is his own truth and his own good, because each one is such as his understanding and will are. The understanding pertains to truth, because everything of it is from truths, and the will pertains to good, because everything of it is from goods, for, whatever any one understands, he calls truth, and whatever he wills, he calls good. From this it is that everyone is his own truth and his own good. Therefore, so far as an angel is truth from the divine, and good from the divine, he is a power, because, to that extent, the Lord is in him. And as no one's good and truth are wholly like, or the same as another's, since in heaven, as in the world, there is endless variety, so the power of one angel is not like the power of another. Those who constitute the arms in the greatest man, or heaven, have the greatest power, because such are more in truths than others, and into their truths good flows from the entire heaven. Moreover, the power of the whole man passes into the arms, and by means of these the whole body exercises its powers. It is for this reason that, in the word, arms, and hand signify powers. Sometimes, on this account, a naked arm is seen in heaven, so powerful as to be able to break in pieces everything in its way, even though it were a great rock on the earth. Once, it was moved towards me, and I perceived that it was able to crush my bones to atoms. It has been shown above, that the divine truth that goes forth from the Lord has all power, and that angels have power, to the extent that they are receptions of divine truth from the Lord. But angels are so far receptions of divine truth as they are receptions of divine good, for truths have all their power from good, and none apart from good. So too, good has all its power through truths, and none apart from truths. Power springs from the conjunction of these two. The same is true of faith and love, for it is the same whether you say truth or faith, since everything of faith is truth, also it is the same whether you say good or love, since everything of love is good. The great power that angels have by means of truths from good is shown also from this, that when an evil spirit is merely looked at by the angels, he falls into a swoon, and does not appear like a man, and this until the angel turns away his eyes. Such an effect is produced by the look of the eyes of angels, because the sight of angels is from the light of heaven, and the light of heaven is divine truth. Moreover, the eyes correspond to truths from good. As truths from good have all power, so falsities from evil have no power at all, and as all in hell are in falsities from evil. They have no power against truth and good. But what power they have among themselves, and what power evil spirits have before they are cast into hell, will be told hereafter.